Welcome. This will be the final video in the chemtrail, contrail, and cloud seeding series, where we will first review the last 5 videos and then discuss in detail possible scenarios. For some of the factual information people have shared from their samples of rain, water, and blood. For those new to this, I will cover astronomy and cosmology, solar dynamics and magnetic fields of our planet, solar cycles and cosmic rays, geology and volcanism, atmospheric conditions, and the science of contrails and why they persist longer these days. And new in this video, we will learn some things about chemistry and bonds. So with that, we will move on to the presentation. We begin with the galaxy arms of different densities of materials and magnetic fields that have a spiraling ripple effect. This pattern can be seen throughout our universe, the solar system, and our lives. From galaxy arms to the Parker spiral of the heliospheric current sheet that our planet crosses every 7 to 13 days, to the modulation of solar cycles that contain cycles within cycles of minimums and maximums, grand minimums and grand maximums, and ice ages from the Milankovitch and Gothenburg and various other cycles, to the peaks and valleys of an oscilloscope that analyzes electronic signals from night to day, from summer to fall. We then covered galactic cosmic rays and how as the sun's magnetic field diminishes in strength and in turn the Earth's magnetic field strength diminishes, this allows more cosmic rays comprised of protons, neutrons, and alpha particles, and various other charged particles, and heavy elements such as muons that cause cloud nucleation to increase due to the scattering effect as these very fast moving particles strike molecules and particles in the air and penetrate the crust, causing more volcanic activity, increasing in sulfur and particulates in the air, thus increasing cloud nucleation. After, I showed why the contrails from commercial aircraft are persisting longer and are not chemtrails, because the atmospheric conditions have changed and they use different aircraft and procedures. Same reason that cosmic rays and volcanic releases of sulfur and particulates is the same reason why contrails, comprised of soot particulates of carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, water vapor, sulfur compounds, and unburned hydrocarbons. Also aerosol particulates of cloud condensation nuclei, which is what the clouds are trying to form, water vapor around, and rain, ice nuclei, contrail ice, and others. Next I showed, as a society, we have been using trails of chemical compounds to seed cloud systems to increase rainfall for decades starting back in 1946. They've used silver and potassium iodides, carbon dioxide as dry ice, liquid propane, calcium carbide, ammonium nitrate, sodium chloride, and a urea compound often used as a fertilizer, and is used to create more dense cloud systems. Now knowing this, one would have to be at least a bit curious what other chemical compounds they've used over the decades and for what purposes. It's time in the presentation where we are going to go through some hypothetical scenarios of possible situations. So from this point on, this information isn't all fact. Some of it is hypothetical. I'm going to play a few clips from the Arizona hearing back in 2014. We can run through some possible answers to what they're saying.
Hello, my name's Al DeChico. I live in Golden Valley, and I understand that this is a federal issue. I understand that from speaking to the governor's office, that they cannot or will not even make a statement about this. My question is, have you tested the rainwater? And if you haven't, Have you seen the results of our rainwater tests? And also, are you aware that many of the people sitting in this room right here have very high levels of barium, aluminum, and strontium in their blood?
There are like at least 12 blood tests here created by official laboratory with real doctors, MD, and all these blood tests came back with a high, extreme level of barium, some aluminum. I'm talking about levels that go above more than 1,000%.
So we have two people in this public hearing that mention actual physical evidence of rain samples and blood samples that contain specific elements. This is one hearing of many where these particular elements are mentioned that have occurred all over the world. These people have proof of something, but they can't explain it, and they want answers. A simple search will lead you to find a pattern that revolves around these three specific elements together: barium, aluminum, and strontium. First, I'll run you through a bit of chemistry for those that may need some help of understanding some of the factors associated with these scenarios. When talking about chemicals and how different elements are bonded together, there are three types of bonding. There is ionic bonding, covalent bonding, and metallic bonding. Covalent bonding involves the sharing of electrons between two or more atoms, and ionic bonds form when two or more ions come together and are held together by charge differences. Metallic bonds are the chemical bonds that hold atoms together in metals. They differ from covalent and ionic bonds because the electrons in metallic bonding are delocalized, and they are not shared between only two atoms. Instead, metallic bonds, the electrons float freely through the lattice of metallic nuclei. A chemical compound is a chemical substance composed of many identical molecules, composed of atoms from more than one element held together by chemical bonds. Now, scientists have been using these bonds for decades for all types of experiments, including on the public. And throughout the years, the populations on the planet have been unknowingly been lab rats to an experiment held by a government or corporation. The proof of many have been documented and would be an entire presentation in and of itself, so let me know in the comments if you would like to see one just on that. For example, fluoride would be its own series, which I've done a few on it already, so make sure to find those in the playlist. But it's an electronegative element that gives an increased ability to create chemical bonds, and why it's used to break weaker covalent bonds, and really why it's been added to our water supply since 1945. Now that we understand chemistry of this, we can move on to why barium and aluminum and strontium would be found in rain and blood samples at such high amounts. Absorption of strontium ions on barium silicates from solutions of complex salt composition. And this was received in 2019. Russian Academy of Sciences. Abstract: the comparative analysis of absorption properties of nanostructured barium silicates obtained in multi-component systems with those specific elements has been performed to extend previous data. The data on the composition and morphology of the systems has been presented. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a chemist, but I have taken chemistry and I'll do my best here. Okay. Their properties toward absorption of strontium ions from solutions of complex ionic compositions have been studied. It has been found that synthetic barium silicates and silicates, so that's aluminum silicates, have high absorption and kinetic characteristics under static absorption conditions. Okay, kinetic characteristics under static absorption conditions. Okay, the maximum degree of strontium ions recovered from solutions of complex compositions, 99%, was achieved from barium silicate. The samples of barium aluminosilicate have the same absorption characteristics within measurement error. It has been shown that the studied sorbents, allowing for their kinetic properties, may be recommended for the deep purification of solutions of complex ionic compositions, seawater including from strontium ions under static conditions. Okay, so that's the abstract. They use barium and aluminum silicates to remove strontium from seawater and nuclear spent fuel contaminated water. These three specific elements shown in multiple studies and their characteristics of interacting with each other. It interacts with strontium from the water and creates a bond that they can then take advantage of when they separate it from the water. So it would stand to reason that since they use these two elements to attract the other one from water every day, then either it is being released into the biota and the global environment from their filtering process, or they are purposely releasing it into the atmosphere in an attempt to attract strontium out of the air and cause them to have a stronger bond that would then be forced to the ground, where it can then be captured and filtered properly. Okay, these two hypothetical instances with scientific evidence to back it up should finally be an answer to everyone that is looking for different government agencies and companies that are releasing these elements into the environment, and no one wants to take the blame for it, so they keep it quiet. These would be considered top secret programs by every technologically advanced nation on the planet, just like it was with the Soviet Union when Chernobyl happened. Since Fukushima occurred in 2011, it would make sense that they would have to be the largest leak of strontium into the atmosphere in years leading up to the 2014 Arizona meeting. I think our government and military would indeed conduct cloud seeding missions, using more than just silver iodide to decrease the amounts of strontium in the air. And specifically, I believe they use the same flares with a mixture of various chemical compounds for various reasons, and the result is the rain and blood samples that have increased levels of barium, aluminum, and strontium specifically. Also, for aluminum, you have to consider the possibility of a zeolite type compound that may have been used to attract certain things in the air and water. Soluble, insoluble, noble and inert, electronegative and electropositive. Our scientists and governments have been doing things not openly told to the population of the world, and it's time we are told the truth. If it must be done, fair enough, but the people should be told what's occurring and when, so they can shield themselves. Thousands of companies worldwide are involved with releasing chemical trails of various compounds into the sky, and it needs to end. They do it for profits, not people. These fictional scenarios contain some truths, and more than likely will one day become truth, just like the truth of geoengineering, taking place once definitely denied by all those involved for decades, and is now a known fact. The comment section will be open as long as respect can be maintained and open dialogue can be made. Speak freely, but always with respect. Leave your thoughts down below and share this video with those that need knowledge, and thumbs up for all the hard work I do for you all.